The effectiveness of stem cell therapies. Are stem cell therapies effective? Stem cell therapies are effective, but there are some ethical and political issues that could be solved with further research and testing.
What are stem cell therapies? Stem cell therapies use stem cells to treat or heal injuries and diseases by regenerating damaged tissues. For example, stem cells can become nerve, muscle, or blood cells. These treatments have grown in popularity because they've recently improved the treatment of leukemia and heart disease. Can stem cell therapies treat diseases and injuries? Stem cell therapies are currently helping many people today. For example, bone marrow transplants use stem cells to treat cancers like leukemia. These therapies also are helpful for other sicknesses like heart disease, in which stem cell therapy regenerates damaged tissues. This means that stem cells can replace cells that are not working efficiently, helping patients heal significantly faster. Current research today is improving safety. Although stem cell therapies do have positive outcomes, researchers are still working to make them safer so they can be a reliable option. One problem is that stem cells grow abnormally fast, which then leads to possible tumors or other problems. Scientists run many kinds of experiments and tests in order to check for these risks. One specific way they experiment is on animals. However, practicing on animals can be effective sometimes, but what works on animals doesn't always work the same way on humans. With this information, it is easy to say further research and tests are necessary to make sure the therapy is as reliable as possible so they can be used to help more patients in the future.
As mentioned in our claim, there are political issues regarding the use and effectiveness of stem cell therapies. According to the Hearst Corporation, political issues regarding stem cell therapies date back to 2001, when President George W. Bush set limitations on federal grants for embryonic stem cell research. Following Bush, Barack Obama removed most of the restrictions that George W. Bush put in place. This was a result of the ethical issues regarding embryonic stem cell research that Piper will touch on later. There are some contradicting laws. Some states promote the use of unapproved stem cell therapies to patients that have chronic diseases. This bases off the right to try laws. On the other hand, there are laws that require patient awareness to stem cell interventions that are not approved. The Food and Drug Administration states that only stem cell products that are FDA approved in the United States have to consist of blood-forming stem cells, known as hematopoietic progenitor cells, derived from umbilical cord blood. These issues restrict further research and testing of stem cell therapies.
Ethical benefits. As GiGi mentioned earlier, stem cell therapies can replace damaged cells, providing new treatments for conditions like spinal cord injuries, Parkinson's disease, and heart disease, which presents a moral imperative to advance this research. Also touching on what GiGi discussed, it could end up with a reduction in animal testing. Advancements in stem cell research could lead to decreased reliance on animal testing by providing human cell models for drug testing and disease studies, thereby minimizing harm to animals. Personalized medicine. Stem cell therapies can enable personalized treatments using a patient's own cells, reducing rejection risks and emphasizing the ethical principle of doing no harm, ultimately enhancing patient well-being. Respect for embryonic life. Source of embryonic stem cells. These cells are harvested from embryos created during in vitro fertilization, but not implanted with informed consent of donors. Ethical concern. There are significant ethical concerns surrounding embryonic stem cell research, specifically on the religious side, which views embryos as living members of the human species. Alternative methods. As I mentioned before, the potential for using a patient's own stem cells presents a moral alternative to embryonic stem cell research. According to the Mayo Clinic, this new technique may allow use of reprogrammed cells instead of embryonic cells and prevent immune system rejection of the new stem cells, which could also help solve any ethical reservations that one might have about embryonic about stem cells?
The future of stem cell therapy is endless. There's no way of knowing what exactly will happen. But so far, we've taken 2 big steps in the right direction that will guarantee better results. Stem cell therapy requires billions of potent stem cells per patient. That is very hard to come by, especially with how fast we're finding treatable diseases. Luckily, Professor Zhang and her team at the University of Washington have a solution for producing the cells in bulk. They have designed a 3-dimensional scaffold made from cytosans, which simulates a human body, allowing stem cells to be produced in a more natural environment. It's much better than a petri dish. This is pretty shocking. 45% of all deaths can be traced back to some kind of regenerative failure caused by inflammation and fibrosis. It's basically just scar tissue in your organs. It comes from heart attacks usually. However, a study was done at Stanford working with adult stem cells that repairs the tissue. An ethical drawback of this therapy is that the cells can overproduce because there's not enough attention on the body once the cells have been transported in. This is when the cells pretty much overgrow and attack the spinal cord. This could cause the patient to be paralyzed. But with more research and further testing, we will soon know what the body needs to prevent that from happening and solve this ethical dilemma.
And that's it.
All right, some questions. GiGi, how did the group decide to include Katie's perspective into the overall presentation?
Her perspective shows the political issue that were mentioned to connect with our claim by explaining the different laws and regulations that either support or oppose the use of stem cell therapies.
Okay. Katie, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem?
Piper's lens shifted my perspective on the use of stem cell therapies by highlighting its role in reducing animal testing, which I found to be an ethical benefit and not a bad ethical.
Piper, if you had another team member, what other perspective or limitations could they have researched that would have been useful to your project?
We talked about possibly using economic just because of how much that impacts who has access to these treatments and kind of the possibility of everyone being able to use them, and we thought that that would just be beneficial to our project to add a new perspective.
Okay, all right. And Max, what is one way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own research?
Well, most of my research was just about what the future is going to hold, but when I started thinking about the ethical reasons of why it's maybe not safe, with the overproducing of cells, just, I don't know, opened my eyes to how it can be kind of dangerous and really expensive.
Thank you. Another round of applause.